If you or man lived on Mars, you'd be living there many years in the future, perhaps in the year 2054. Once you move there, you would call yourself a Martian. And here are two Martian children. You would have to travel there by spaceship with your parents. The traveling part of your voyage would last about 6 months, and you would be sure to take lots of games to play on your rocket ship. Your parents prepared you for this journey by informing you you'd be staying on Mars for almost 2 years. You would have to wait to return to Earth for the planets to realign for a quick and safe trip home. The entire expedition would take almost 3 years. You would start your trip at 10 years of age and return home closer to 13. So that's a long trip. Mars is named after the Roman god of war, probably because of its red color. It's also referred to as the red planet. The color is from the rocks mostly made from iron. It is the 4th planet from the sun and the 2nd smallest planet in the solar system. It is a terrestrial or land planet with the thin atmosphere consisting mostly of carbon monoxide, which means you can't breathe the air on the surface. You would have to wear a special suit to go outside. Mars and Earth are 250 million miles apart at their furthest point in orbit. This is called the aphelion. Every 2 years, Mars and Earth are at their closest point called the perihelion, which is 33.9 million miles apart. Both planets have almost the same amount of land. The Earth is bigger, but most of its surface is taken up by oceans. If you put all of the Earth's land together, it would equal the amount of land on Mars. So here's a nice map to show you where it is and how it looks. Your new home would be called a Mars Living Module. For years, scientists have experimented on Earth's harshest deserts to see how these materials would survive on Mars. There are no building materials on Mars like wood or trees, so you'd have to transport everything from Earth. Your new home would have life support units that generate energy, water, and breathable air for living comfortably. It would have to have food, solar panels, spare parts, and all the supplies you'll need, as help and delivery are millions of miles away. The housing would have to protect the colonists and scientists from extreme heat, cold, and cosmic rays, and solar flares. Cosmic rays are bursts of energy from space, and solar flares are bright explosions that come from the sun. Both contain high levels of radiation that are dangerous to all living things. The atmosphere on Earth protects people from radiation. When on Mars, you would have to make sure you stay safe and covered all the time. The air on the planet is not safe to breathe. When you go outside, you need to wear a specially made bodysuit similar to what astronauts wear. It has to be created with material that's flexible enough for you to work and move around, yet still protect you from the severe environment. There are 3 things that makes Mars unlivable. 1, the air pressure is too thin to breathe. 2, it has too much carbon monoxide and too little oxygen. Extreme temperatures can change quickly and without warning. So you'd have to spend a lot of your time indoors. See, they're growing indoors. After you land on Mars and move into your newly constructed home, you'd want to see what looks familiar. You would look for the sun in the sky. It appears half the size than you're used to seeing because of the strangely shaped orbit of Mars. An orbit is a trip the planet makes around the sun. Mars has an elliptical orbit, which means it's more oval than round. Other planets with round orbits travel faster around the sun. Make sure you can identify the 2 moons of Mars as they pass. Phobos is the larger moon and orbits close to the planet's surface. You would see it 3 times every 24 hours. It is oddly shaped and has many craters or pockmarks. The moon continually moves closer to the surface of Mars and will eventually collide with it, breaking up into very small pieces. If you're not too worried don't be so worried about that. Scientists say it won't happen for at least 10 million years. Deimos is the smaller moon and one of the smallest in the solar system. It's further away from the surface of Mars, and because of its distance, it takes 30 hours to circle the planet. It also has an irregular shape but a smoother surface. Scientists think the moons are asteroids that got caught in the orbit of Mars. Both Phobos and Deimos are named after Greek gods. These gods were thought to represent fear and terror. The word Phobos means fear, and that is where the word phobia originated. Deimos takes its name from the Greek word panic. With two moons inspired from the word fear and panic, you may wonder if it'll make you a little nervous at night. Eventually, all the dust and debris from these two small objects will form a ring around Mars, not unlike Saturn. So eventually, Mars is going to have a ring like Saturn. If you first landed on the southern hemisphere of Mars, you would be prepared for a short and extremely hot summer. This part of Mars is tilted toward the sun during the summer. If you landed in the settlement in the northern hemisphere, you'd expect a brief, cold winter as it is leaning away from the sun. When the seasons change with the orbit, the north will experience a long, mild summer at the furthest point, while the south suffers through a lengthy, cold winter. Either way, these children are indoors. They're not outdoors. Your new colony is in the north, where you would have 7 months spring, 6 months of summer, and a little more than 5 months of fall. Winter would be a short 4-month stay. A year on Mars lasts 1.88 Earth years, and a day is a little more than 24 hours. The average temperature on Mars is freezing minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but temperatures can range anywhere from minus 195 Fahrenheit in the winter near the poles to a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer near the equator. You know the weather changes rapidly at night, plummeting to minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit even in the warmer seasons. Frost develops overnight on the red rocks. As the sun's warmth burns it off, there's 100% humidity, so if you're outside, there would be a thick clouds and wet conditions. Either way, you would not be allowed out without a special spacesuit to protect you from the radiation and deadly air. The temperature can change rapidly within a single week. Mars has terrible dust storms. These events coat the planet with dust, blocking out all sunlight, so you couldn't go out without a special outfit. I wouldn't want to be outside during a dust storm. Your father is a scientist who plans to help farm the red planet. He would plant seeds in a room filled with both earth and Martian soil. Scientists have tested the soil for years and are confident you'd be able to eat crops of potatoes, radishes, and peas grown in your settlement. You're thrilled with the experiment with spinach. You're thrilled that the experiment with spinach didn't work, and they left those seeds back on Earth. And here they are farming indoors. What seeds would you want planted in your Martian colony? Your mother is the doctor and would see to the health and safety of the group of settlers. There are teachers and mechanics as well as their children along for the exciting expedition. Your group is diverse with people from all over the world. You had to take many classes on Earth to prepare you for this trip. So you would be with a lot of different people. Gravity is a force that keeps you grounded to a planet's surface. Since the surface of gravity on Mars is only 37% of the Earth, it would alter when you jump in the air. You'll go 3 times higher. Basketball has got to be a lot of fun on this planet. If you can jump 3 times higher, you can go up really high when you play. You would love to take visitors to see the Olympus Mons, which is not only the highest mountain on Mars, but also the tallest in the entire solar system. It's 16 miles high, making it 3 times taller than Mount Everest back on Earth. You would have to heed all the warning signs, though. It's a volcano, too, and scientists say that based on the lava flows, it's still active. So I would be careful near that mountain, Olympus Mons. On Mars, your parents would warn you to be alert for those famous and dangerous dust storms. They can cover the entire surface of the planet and last for months. The dust is thick, and you must be inside your module so you won't get lost in one. The planet's dust storms are the fiercest and largest in the entire solar system. The dust can harm electrical equipment and interfere with solar-powered instruments, so it's important to keep the dust and dirt out of the habitat and living spaces. One of the crew needs to work all the time on keeping the equipment clean and dust-free. In the olden days, people speculated that there was an ancient civilization on Mars. They mapped outlines on the surface and called them canals or channels. They appeared like the canals used on Earth to transfer water around the planet. While scientists are confident those lines were not created by civilization but by natural formation of rocks and craters, they were excited recently to discover that Mars does indeed have evidence of having once had salty water. And there are the canals. Would you like to be an explorer on Mars? So you see, if you were me, how life on Mars could really be. I'm going to close my eyes and imagine that I'm one of those kids exploring Mars.